So you should see something pop up. Okay. Um, so welcome everyone. This is our first EDIS Pedagogy community event, and we're really excited to have Elias Bradley from the Emily Dickinson Museum here with us. And thank you for taking some time out of your Saturday for being here with us. We'll have time for conversation, and just a reminder when you're not speaking to keep yourself muted, and obviously add questions to the chat. And just a quick note about the community. Obviously, we want to continue to grow the community as well as get more K through 12 educators involved. So please join the EDIS Discord channel if you have not yet, and we will save more time at the end of the event to answer questions and talk about that if that would be helpful. There you can find a pedagogy channel, a translation channel, general updates. So it's a good forum to ask questions and participate and share resources as well. So in terms of today's event, I'll pass it over to Cheryl Weaver in a minute, who's the co-director of the Pedagogy community, and she'll introduce Elias. And thank you. Your feedback in the Google form was really helpful for us to kind of get a sense of your experience and your questions. So, we could try to tailor this a little bit to your own experiences. But before I hand it over to Cheryl, I would like you to very briefly introduce yourselves. And we're going to keep this very brief because there'll be time at the after Elias presents for us to kind of talk more about our experiences in classrooms and otherwise. So if you could just share your name, I'm going to put this in the chat, pronoun, and your institution, or where you're teaching, that would be helpful. And then we'll kind of go from there. So I guess I'll start, and then I'm just going to call on people so we can keep this moving. I'm Wendy, she, her pronouns. I teach at Queens College. I'm an assistant professor in the English education program, formerly a high school teacher as well. So all things pedagogy are really important to me. I'm going to pass it to Cheryl.
Hello, folks. My name is Cheryl Weaver. I don't really care what pronouns. As a high school English teacher for about 23 years, I've been called mom, mister, so it doesn't matter what you call me, quite frankly. And I don't know, Wendy, if you'd like to control the who goes next.
Where do you teach, Cheryl?
Oh, I teach high school at City Honors in Buffalo, New York.
Great. I'm just going to quickly keep going on my screen in order. Kimberly. Hi, Kimberly.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Kimberly Southwick Thompson, she, her, and I teach at Jacksonville State University in Jacksonville, Alabama, not Florida. That's it. Okay. Creative writing and literature.
Bethany.
Bethany Reed, she, her. I used to teach at community colleges, worked with a lot of Running Start high school students. I'm retired now, but teaching retired people at the Creative Retirement Institute, and I'm starting a Dickinson class next week. So re-upped my EDIS membership and excited to find all these classes. This is awesome.
Nice. Welcome. Thanks for being here. We look forward to kind of hearing more. Juan Carlos.
Hello, I'm Juan Carlos Calvillo. I live in Mexico City. He is him. And I teach at the College of Mexico. I teach translation, and very seldom I get the chance to teach a course on Dickinson. So I'm here just as a very interested observer. So I apologize at the beginning if I don't collaborate very actively, because my experience is very limited in that sense. But Thank you.
Welcome. Brunilda.
Hello, my name is Brunilda Conti. She, her. I am in Tirana, Albania, and I teach at the University of Tirana, Faculty of Foreign Languages. I just finished my 19th century American literature course where I teach Emily Dickinson. And I do this annually, so
Nice.
glad to
Welcome.
be here. Thank you.
I will go to Benjamin or Ben.
Hey everybody. Yeah, my name is Ben Bogosius and I teach literature and creative writing and just humanities seminars with Bard Early College. So that's like a dual enrollment program where my students earn both high school credits and also college credits from Bard College in New York State. And I'm also a poet and writer myself, and I regard Emily Dickinson's collected poems as a Bible, as scripture for me, basically. So thank you.
Welcome, Ben. Elizabeth.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Elizabeth Petrino, she, her, hers. I teach at Fairfield University in Connecticut, and this is, despite the fact that I've loved and been working on Dickinson all my career, all my life. This is the first semester that I'm actually teaching a seminar on Dickinson and other poets who she read or who were influenced by her. So I'm really, prior to that, I would always teach Dickinson within the context of American Romanticism. So I'm really excited to see what people are doing and really happy to be here.
Thank you. Dolly.
Oh, hello everyone, and great to meet everyone. My name is Dali Tan. I'm a professor of Chinese at Northern Virginia Community College. Occasionally, I also teach English composition course, and so I really don't have opportunity to teach Emily Dickinson, but I definitely want to bring Emily Dickinson as a part of my translation for my higher level course, and then to make it more realize the challenges and opportunities, and especially the use of AI and how AI can help with the translating, just using Emily Dickinson as an example. Yeah, great to meet everyone.
Thank you. Perek.
Hi. Hello. Sorry I was a bit late. Technical issues. So I teach at the University of Portsmouth, and I teach two different classes on Emily Dickinson. So it's just two individual classes. One is an American women's writing course, and one is a kind of an American literature survey course. So in one, I teach Dickinson alongside Whitman and the American Civil War. And in the other, I teach Dickinson alongside Lydia Sigourney, and the idea of the ironic versus the more sentimental poet.
Thank you.
So I'm really looking forward to hearing getting some ideas about how people teach Dickinson. Thank you.
Thank you. Ivy is the last person on my screen, last but not least. There. Okay, we'll give Ivy a chance to introduce herself.
Okay, I think
You there?
I've got yeah.
Okay.
Sorry,
That's okay.
I'm in the middle of a walk, so that's why I have my video turned off, because I thought it might be a little disconcerting to see me bouncing up and down. But I'm Ivy Schweitzer. My pronouns are she, her. I'm actually retired from Dartmouth College, where I taught in English and creative writing. And I taught a junior colloquium on Dickinson, in which we read all 1,800 of Dickinson's poems, which was kind of fun. And that was a prelude to creating White Heat, which is my year-long blog, a weekly blog on Dickinson, which I really created as a pedagogical tool. I've also written about teaching Dickinson, and so I'm very interested in that. And I'm interested in hearing what everybody else has to say about Dickinson. And I'm also here as the website director, just to kind of, see what how the website can support the pedagogy community. So that's the second reason why I'm here. So very excited and glad that you got this organized.
Thanks, Ivy. So we'll have time to dig in more, a little bit later, and we'll obviously continue these conversations around teaching Dickinson. So I'll pass the mic over to Cheryl, and then we'll get started. Thanks, everybody.
Hello again, everyone. I have the honor to introduce Elias. I think I gave myself that honor, though, in the plan. I just want to, again, introduce myself. My name is Cheryl Weaver. I didn't specify teaching Dickinson carries with it a little bit more of a challenge for me as a high school teacher. Only because changes in education, sometimes we have scripted instruction where we're kind of told what to teach, and I have a little bit more freedom in one of my classes, my 11th grade class, and so I'm hoping to actually work with the letters a little bit this year. But in the interest of moving forward, I'd love to introduce Elias Bradley, who's the Education Programs Manager at the Emily Dickinson Museum. They like to work to create inclusive, inquiry-based programs that connect learners' lives to the poets. In addition to leading the development of programs for K-12, college, and educator audiences, they curate the museum's poetry discussion series and serve on the steering committee for the Tulsa Poetry Festival. Prior to working at the Emily Dickinson Museum, they were senior educator at Wave Hill, managing pre-K to 12th grade programs in environmental education and nature-based art, which is fascinating to me. They hold an MA in history and a certificate in public history from UMass Amherst, and a BA in English and history from the University of Illinois at Champaign-Urbana. Outside of that work, and what I think is really fascinating, is that they catalog birds and wildflowers on walks in Western Massachusetts, which is something that I am absolutely awful at. So they get my full adoration and respect on that front. Without further ado, Elias, take it away.
Thank you. And if anybody comes out to Western Mass and wants to go on a walk with me, be happy to do that with you. I'm really grateful to get to be here today. I know I've gotten to meet many of you before in other settings. So if we've met before, wonderful to see you again. And the museum is really excited about the pedagogy community and the opportunity to get to collaborate with all of you. And our interest is really in knowing what it is that we can offer that's most helpful. So in that sense, that's why I'm here today, but I'm also excited to be involved as an educator myself. So I'm going to actually share a screen in just a second. I always feel like I need to tell you that because I'm a little slow at doing it. All right. And here we are. Does that look good? Okay, great. So the Emily Dickinson Museum does have education programs. I think, has everybody had a chance to visit the museum before, or have some of you never been able to make it out? I know that we're located all over the place. If you've had an opportunity to visit, why don't you raise your hand, just so I know. Oh, great, fantastic. So most people have. So here we have sort of a college program going on in the library of the museum, and we are excited because we have, after 25 years, just got our first education plan, which was finished in 2024. And our education plan builds on the work of our long-range plan and our comprehensive interpretive plan. We have a lot of plans. And the real goals of it are to improve the visitor experience and learning outcomes for our educational audiences, which we consider to be K through 12, college, community colleges included, and adult learners as well. And it also outlines a bunch of new programs that connect students' lives to Emily Dickinson. And we're excited about harnessing our large virtual audience that we've built up through the pandemic, where we're getting to see people from all over the world, which I know is what EDIS does as well, and want to make the museum accessible to all of those folks and build on our educator network in that way as well. So we're very fortunate at the museum to have a lot of wonderful resources. We have the buildings, the homestead and the evergreens, which are in some ways our largest collection objects. We have the grounds, Emily Dickinson's gardens. We have about 3 acres. And we're also connected to Amherst College, which gives us access to the Frost Library's collection of Dickinson manuscripts, which is particularly strong in terms of a lot of the scraps and fragments, which are really fun manuscripts to get to look at with students. We ourselves don't manage those, but we have a close relationship with them. So I'm going to just roughly share with you some of our current offerings that we have. And I'm going to give you a handout in just a little bit that will sort of link out to some of these things so that you could go and access them yourselves. But if you wanted to know what you could do with us, you could, if you are close by, and I know Elizabeth Petrino is going to be doing this soon, so we look forward to her visit. You could visit the museum, and we will work with you to book a field trip for your students. We have some classes that come from farther away on every 1 or 2 years on their sort of literary trips to New England. And then we have other classes that visit us more regularly. It is always possible, especially with advance notice. Our regular visits, you could book 3 weeks in advance, but with even more notice, we might be able to put something together for you that's unique. So if you wanted to come and talk to somebody like Jane, you wanted to have a particular focus on a particular aspect of Dickinson's life, if you're a creative writing teacher and you dream of doing some creative writing in this space, we would like to work with you to make that happen. And you could email us and we could figure that out. I know in the form, people mentioned virtual visits. That's something we've done just a little bit, but if that's of interest to you, we could think through what that could look like and what that could mean, because it's a direction we're excited to go in. We also have our poetry discussion series, which I know some of you have attended either as facilitators or as just attendees. That's going to be launching really soon, and it's a discussion group that is general audience, but also includes scholarly and educator audiences of Dickinson's poems. So coming up this year, you'll be able to register soon if you're interested. And we have a number of great folks. Renee Berglund will be leading one. Kylan Rice will be reading one on gem poems. And Eliza Richards will lead one. And my mind is blank, but it is a good series. And then we had a virtual professional development series that goes on in the fall, which Ivy led a discussion on Dickinson in the Civil War. This is really geared through K through 12 teachers, but we've had teachers at all levels sort of attend to discuss their pedagogical approaches. And we're also excited to get to feature people. So if you feel that you have something that you might like to pitch or share, or you might like to be involved with that series, you can also reach out. Our virtual programs also include, if you're a creative writing, we have our Phosphorescence is our virtual reading series. And every single series, there's a discussion at the end with contemporary poets about what Dickinson means to them. Those can be great extra credit events for college students to attend. We have the Tell It Slant Poetry Festival and the marathon, which you can participate in virtually with your with your class. And we also have behind the scenes videos on collections and on restoration of the museum, which can be a lot of fun too. So I'll link out to how you could access some of those things. We also have virtual resources on our website that can be a useful part of the syllabus. And I know that some of you mentioned them. These include these biographical essays of Emily Dickinson's sort of family and friends, her biography and her poetry, which can be short readings for students who might need a quicker introduction than a scholarly article on a particular topic. We have a virtual exploration of the homestead and the Evergreens, which is getting expanded all the time. Each room in the virtual exploration is there's a video that just shows the room. So that video could be used as sort of a standalone object, or not object, but standalone exploration if you didn't want to include any of the other text, just to see the space and reflect on it. There is also objects and storytelling for each room of the site. So that can be a fun way to place to send students if they can't make it in person. And without further ado, I wanted to kind of focus most of our time on our collections because that seemed to be of interest to a lot of you. And I know that working with collections and material culture in particular, I think presents a lot of unique opportunities for Dickinson. So I thought I would kick off that discussion with this poem, Death Sets a Thing Significant, that I like in the context of collections. So would anybody just for fun read this poem? And I might ask Wendy or Cheryl to call on you because I can't see everybody.
I'll read it.
Thank you, Kimberly.
Death sets a thing significant the eye had hurried by, except a perished creature, entreat us tenderly. To ponder little workmanships in crayon or in wool, with this was last her fingers did, industrious until the thimble weighed too heavy, the stitches stopped themselves, and then 'twas put among the dust upon the closet shelves. A book I have, a friend gave, whose pencil here and there had notched the places that pleased him. At rest his fingers are. Now, when I read not, for interrupting tears obliterate the etchings, too costly for repairs.
Thank you. So this is, I think, a really accessible poem, including for high school students when thinking about material culture or collections objects. So it can be sort of a fun one if you want to kick off any discussion of that type. And I know you haven't had a lot of time to sit and reflect on it. We don't need to get into, a deep poetry discussion, but I'll give you a second, and I'd love it if anybody could call out, anything that they particularly noticed or connected to in this poem.
I mean, I don't know if I have a personal connection to it, but I imagine someday I will feel this way. Specifically about my parents, I guess, like I have just little pieces of paper where my mom like wrote a note and I'm like afraid to throw it away. Like a Christmas tag like to Kimberly, from mom. And just keep those things around, maybe too many of them. Just in case I might feel like this someday.
Yeah.
This definitely touches me. And thinking about teaching the class at the Retirement Institute, I now want to use this poem. And one of the things I want to get them to talk about or reflect on is the differences between Dickinson's age and ours, which with younger students was always a great topic because they just don't understand that It wasn't like you could listen to the radio by kerosene. It was a completely different world. And, thinking about those objects that we keep from people we've lost and the weight of the meaning of them I find that very powerful. And I'm pretty sure the students in this class are going to also. This is beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you for both of those perspectives. So I'm sharing a picture. Oh, Dolly, you had your.
Oh, okay, yeah. I was just thinking about the translation workshop that Juan is going to organize. Of yellow was the outer sky, the kind of a sewing, and then the seam, that kind of image. And I was thinking how her we can read her poem. I don't remember reading this poem in the past, but while translating that of yellow was the outer sky poem. I'm thinking, what are the other the poems that she's mentioned about the sewing and that kind, and so this kind of intertextuality I'm really interested in. Thank you. I'm definitely going to read this poem deeper as I translate the other poem. Yeah, thank you.
There's a really great poem on sewing called Don't Put Out My Thread and Needle. That's one of my very favorite ones. So maybe we can continue that conversation later in the Discord. But so this poem is, I think it's really, maybe it's not as well known. It may not be Dickinson's very finest, but it's very accessible and touching. And I think there are a lot of interesting things happening here because it talks a lot about the relationships between objects and memory. And there are many moments where a person or an object sort of seem to stand in for one another, like a book becoming a connection to a friend, or there's a lot of like funny interchanges, and her capitalizations are always fascinating, but they're really fascinating to me here because she chooses to capitalize thing at the beginning of the poem, which makes me reflect about, on the meaning of things. And I'm noticing when Cran, becomes capitalized along with the word her and things like that. So I think there's a lot of interesting things happening here. And I've paired it with one of our most fascinating objects in our collection, which is an unfinished quilt that is in the Dickinson family, that is sort of a hexagon quilt, that the backing of which for all of these little fabric scraps, which are actually made from people's clothing in the Dickinson family, we can match the fabric to certain garments that we also have in our collection. So the fabric scraps were also from notes, letters, and things that they just sort of had around their household. So it's very interesting to turn it over. Sorry, there's like I'm explaining this badly, but it's a punch quilt. So in order to get the hexagonal shape, there's actually a piece of paper backing each of these. And those pieces of paper are enfolded in the quilt. And they have handwriting, letters, they're scraps of paper from the houses. And you can see sometimes where one piece of paper would match another piece of paper. So it's a very fascinating object on so many levels. So our collections, has anybody been to our collections database online before? Raise your hand if you have. So most of you have, but maybe not everybody. So we have a growing amount of collections objects, growing not because we're avidly collecting, but because we're cataloging more and more. So I can't tell you our precise number. I think that we're up to more than 9,200 in our database, and these include objects associated with Emily Dickinson, her family, and her later heirs. and includes everything from Hudson River School paintings and artworks to cooking and dining artifacts, personal items like toys, handwork, musical instruments, souvenirs from travels abroad, and a lot of clothing and textiles. And it really captures all of the details of 19th century life in Amherst and vividly illustrates the daily life and writing habits of the poet and then of her family. And I find it so exciting to get to see sort of the stuff of everyday life, including in pockets and drawers. And these objects, I think, really make the Dickinsons feel quite relatable. So to access that, you go to the museum webpage and then select the collection from About the Museum drop down, which I'm showing there. And that will take you to the catalog. And the catalog search, as you have probably experienced if you've been on it, is a work in progress. We are at a very basic catalog stage of collections management, which is that all of the objects are sort of named, they're in there, but they're not necessarily all tagged with who their owner was, if there can be an associated owner, and there's more work to do. If you are interested in a particular record, a particular item, you can write our collections manager, and there may be more information that is just not on display yet to the public. So I would encourage you, to go ahead and do that should there be something that's very, interesting to you. Things that maybe haven't made it to the digital version might include notes on sort of condition, wear and tear. They might include additional sort of provenance notes or documentation connected to inventories and other things that could actually help you do more research into an object. So there is more than what is publicly available. So I think it would be fun if we actually just navigated to that. So I'm going to drop the link in the chat. Hold on one second. So apologize for taking a minute to do this. Oops, I just sent this only to Wendy. I sent it to everybody. It'll be helpful. So just for fun, let's go to the collections database and I'm going to go back to my slide share. And there's a couple different ways you can search. And if you use a keyword search, you will search the names and descriptions of all artifacts, which can be helpful or may not be helpful. So say you wanted to find a letter. If you searched just letter in keyword search, you would find handwritten letters, mail objects, but you would also find anything. You might find a spoon that had letters on it, or Cyrillic letters on an object are mentioned. So you'll find anything with the word letter. Advanced search by object name or by object type would help you find only things that are cataloged as letters. Wildcards, as you all know, as academics, are when you use the little asterisk, and that can be really helpful, especially for searching for people's names that might be somewhere in the record because they may or may not have been possessive. So that can be very helpful. It can also be helpful to think of every permutation somebody's name might have. For instance, Susan Gilbert, Susan Dickinson, Susan Huntington Dickinson, because even though there has been a lot of work to make this as consistent as possible, it was cataloged by multiple people. So I would recommend kind of thinking a little bit about that. So there's a lot of possible fun ways to search the catalog. So you could search by members of the Dickinson family. You could go ahead and search for place names that you know in a Dickinson poem to see if there's any object associated with that place. We don't know if Dickinson would have seen it, but she might have, depending on its year. It's advanced search could be significant years in American history, photograph, and then evergreens to see something from the evergreens. So just for fun, why don't you take a minute to generate a search idea and then tell us if you have found anything exciting. Really has searched for teal. I wonder if anything appeared as teal.
Basically, I feel like I'm shopping. I'm like, I want this thing.
We have that conversation a lot, like, oh, what could we make and then have in our shop?
Yeah, I love this teacup that I found. It's kind of amazing. I'm very glad I found it, but now I want it.
So Elizabeth Petrina searched for coral and came up with many objects maybe made of coral, which is interesting to think about. Volcano. I know that there's also, if you search for Pompeii, you will get some images of Pompeii on stereoscope cards. So it's fun. And those date from Dickinson's time. They were most likely in the evergreens, but she could have seen them. Gossamer. I would imagine Gossamer doesn't show up, but I doubt our text, but if it does, I'd be surprised.
No, I got nothing.
Yeah, I think you'd have to look through our textile collection. There tend to be cataloged quite literally and very basic. Yeah, it might, but I think it would be fun.
I was thinking about the places
Mhm.
when she wrote about the hummingbird and then anything about like a morning ride from Tunis. And I was also thinking about um, like some of the jasmine flowers that she would just wonder if there's any object. I don't think maybe maybe I couldn't find anything in my
I
search.
I think
Yeah, how do you place search? Maybe some object is related to places. Yeah.
And I think that the way that the level of the catalog is currently at, it is very likely that because of the speed that things needed to be cataloged, that hummingbird would be under bird because
Oh,
not wanting to, if there is any hummingbird, I don't know, because of the desire to not make conjecture about what a bird is, or identify incorrectly, you might find things on a very basic level. So jasmine might be flower. And then the next level of improving the catalog might be, oh, this is a hummingbird, or oh, this is jasmine that is represented. And we want to note that because it's significant. So that as we do this, we're finding areas that feel particularly productive and maybe some areas that are a little bit harder. And students using the catalog would basically face these same issues. All right. So anyways, this was sort of a fun little foray. And there's also a fun for if you were wanting to do creative writing or something like that. There's a random object search, which is one of my very favorites, or not random objects. I'm not in front of it, but there's on the menu bar on the side, I think it will just kind of display a fun little assortment for you. And I find that really productive if I were to have students do a little bit of material culture research, or if they we're thinking about something for creative writing because it really limits the possibilities and it's a bit of a grab bag. So here's an object that I thought this is a little activity that we can do together quickly. And I'm going to put a handout now, which hopefully you can all see, that contains a lot of these links, but also has some questions for an object exercise. Elizabeth.
Yeah, thanks. So I'm really fascinated by this idea because I'm wondering about what the museum might know or what we can find out about the way in which these objects came into the Dickinson family's possession. I mean, I think, given that we're like we're looking up things like coral and tunis and you know and things that are exotic in nature, it seems to me like it there's a real possibility to consider the ways in which these rather exotic objects actually made their way to the Dickinson household. One of my colleagues he teaches 18th century British literature, and he does this very interesting assignment with the students called the biography of an object, where he'll basically look at these these imported or exotic objects that come into Britain, via the slave trade or colonial empires, and trace their significance within the work. So students will kind of research the object and its larger significance within the ways in which Britain was acting as an imperial power. And so, I mean, that would work really well for a poem like The Rape of the Lock, where, puffs and all sorts of, hair combs and things like that work their way into the possession of the people in the poem. So I'm just wondering about how people can or where we should go for information about how these objects actually came into possession, if there's anything about that.
There is a current project that is underway on that topic to an extent. So one thing that Megan Ramsey, our collections manager, is currently doing is a documentation project where she's going to Brown, Yale, Harvard, and mostly looking at anything in their collections that would relate to our collections database, which includes things like inventories, but in the case of, art objects, for instance, that were collected by Austin, might include receipts for those pieces. That could be gallery catalogs. Another thing that you often find in letters are references to trips to Boston to purchase things, which you're nodding because I think you know. So sheet music that was purchased in Boston. I believe that sometimes there's references to furniture being purchased. So you could go to the concordance of the letters. Now, matching that to a particular piece may or may not be hard. If something had a maker's mark on it, then you might know. There are particular objects that I think and then there's also looking at things like the Cutler General Store in Amherst. All of the Cutler account books, not all of them, but many of them are held at the Jones Library. So you could think about what are the stores that were in Amherst and what were they selling. So I love this idea, and I think, it's a complicated to trace one-to-one, but those are some places that you could potentially start. And then you could just look, in general, thinking about, Dickinson's family going to Boston. And if you're interested in China, for instance, I know this is interesting to Dolly. There's a letter that is of Dickinson, visiting the Chinese Museum and thinking about thinking about those objects that were possibly fake exports from China that were coming into Boston. that could be of interest. And I think you would probably see a lot of that in dishware at the Evergreens. So I definitely think it would be something. Another avenue that I think would be actually be quite a lot easier to take would be to look at collection textiles that actually have clothing labels. So a number of clothing objects in our collection, and the labels are often digitized, do have a clothing label. These might be a little bit later period, but it's still pretty fascinating. And Gibbs clothing, some of which was purchased in New York, does have clothing labels. Some of the nicer pieces that they would have saved have these clothing labels. So it would be possible to go look at textile manufacture. So there, it is really fascinating. So thank you for taking the conversation in that direction. I don't know if I shared this document with you all because there's this exercise here that is just a fun one to do with students. Of course, there are lots of different models for how to look at objects. And this one is maybe a little bit more free-spirited and fun. This is in that handout. Hopefully has everybody been able to access it? So this is from 20 years, 20 questions to ask an object, which was a session at the American Studies Association in 2014 that has kind of lived on because it was a lot of fun. And these are 20 questions that they spent a lot of time on just to investigate an object. And these questions they progress from very simple and sensory to deeply philosophical by the end. I've done this with students where I've given them a 20-sided die and just had them roll the die. I know that's not really putting it in order, but it gamifies it, and had them look at something altogether and then answer what they thought based on whatever number they got. So one object that I think that might be that I've done with this is actually a bowling pen game called Artillery 10 Pens, and I'm realizing that I need to grab the link for that for you, unless somebody else can do that for me. Could somebody Google Artillery 10 Pens in the collections catalog? And then put that link for us in the chat. Thank you. And I'm going to pull it up. We won't take very long on this, but it's just for fun. And this is oops. This is an image of it as well, but the full record is better. So thank you.
I dropped the link in. Hopefully that's what you needed.
Yes, here's the object record for this game. So this is kind of a very fascinating toy that is in our collection that we did actually assemble for a photograph. And so this is something that you could probably research who produced it. There's information about it on the side. You could probably find more about the history of it than is currently here. And looking at that, that 20 questions sheet, you could imagine, some fun ways to sort of investigate the object. And I'm trying to see, does anybody want to pick a number? You could just pick a number 1 through 10 and we'll see or 1 through 20 and we'll see what it is, and we'll answer it that way. How about that?
Number 8.
Number 8. What is your emotional response to the object, and what might it evoke, there we go, to others? Is anybody having an emotional response to this object?
Fascinated. Yeah, never seen any games like this for me.
Yeah, that's a great number 8. It's a great question. This is Ben. My emotional response is threat. I feel like threatened. Um,
Feel threatened. Um, can you elaborate on that a little bit?
oh, just anything that's pointing at me, like a gun or a cannon, or it's just
Mhm.
like I'm immediately feel threatened.
Yeah, it's a toy, but there's definitely an aggressiveness to it. Stephanie, were you talking? No? Okay.
I was thinking about maybe a student can relate it to more about the bowling games that they experience. And I don't know how old this kind of games and whether my students' age, whether they play with it, but sort of they can, I don't know whether they can guess the
Feel anxiety about when I look at it because I see these images of children holding a balloon, but they're very close to a cannon.
Mhm.
And I wonder about it because I wonder how soon this was made after the Civil War and what the how it fits into that narrative, like how it fits into the history of the war, if it's um if cannons were what cannons were cannons sort of used in celebrations of civic life in communities? Did they fire cannons? What relationship did people have to cannons? Um, so yeah, it's kind of it's fascinating. And I've had, people have had all different reactions to it, everything from this looks really fun and I want to play it to I find this unsettling. Um, so um with the collections, I think there are a lot of sort of advantages to getting to use the collection. It can really address issues that some of you mentioned, which are students maybe not necessarily feeling connected to 19th century culture or quite knowing what it was. And it can illustrate the similarities, but also the differences in really clear ways. I think that when this collection becomes more of a part of scholarship, which is something that we all have the ability to contribute to, it's an exciting moment. I think it'll transform the way we think about Dickinson because it will immediately connect her a little bit more to her culture and to her family circle, many of whom of her relatives have interests in art. They have interests, they're participating in vibrant intellectual life as well. So it might undercut that narrative of her sort of living this lonely ascetic life. And there's a lot of exciting research potential here. So before we kind of move on, I wondered if there were any other thoughts that you were having, like what Elizabeth shared of how you might want to use collection objects. If you do, you don't have to.
I can quickly share that. I teach methods in how to teach reading to adolescents to pre-service teachers in a teaching program. And we use Dickinson as one of our kind of model texts to work with just because she's actually so difficult and they have to come up with different kinds of literacy strategies to engage adolescents with. But I could use something like this in that class to further engage the question of what does it mean to read, using the kind of notice and wonder framework or use some of these questions. But often the graduate students I work with, are, even if they're English majors, they don't all necessarily have a lot of knowledge of 19th century America. And so I found that even though the class is not a 19th century class, I have to find ways to build a kind of visual vocabulary a little bit of the 19th century. And this is such an easier way of doing it than the ways that I've been trying to do it. So I'm grateful that you brought this up, Elias.
I've seen that, Karen. Thank you for that. I think that there's a lot of visual literacy is such an important skill in American studies and just for anybody. So I appreciate that perspective. And it reminds me that Karen Sanchez Epler has used collections a lot in her teaching Dickinson classes, and she would be a great person to talk to about, for any of you to talk to about this. But she has focused a lot on 19th century print culture and how that might have influenced Dickinson. And there are some fun examples of that in the collection, but also very findable. And then she's also she used the collections a lot on history of childhood, which is one of her focuses, but is also a particular strength of our collection. We have some really fascinating things like slates that still have writing on them that survived all these years. If you search for slate, you will see some slates that give doned with drawings that have never been erased. So things that are very evocative and interesting and can also get at these bigger ideas, like what does it mean? What did it mean to be a child in a family? So thinking about all of this, I'd love to know, I want to leave space, both if any of you have used collections in one of your courses in a way that's been really productive for you to share that with us. And I also want to know, what resources might be the most useful to you. And it could be collections, it could be the house, it could be something else. Because the museum is thinking about what it is we could work on and make available. So that might mean that we do 3D images of particular objects that are very significant or resonant, and we put them online so that you could use them. We could make a gallery of something like connected to a theme. We could think about crowdsourced transcription projects that you could participate in. I don't know, dream. So we would love to hear those ideas either now or later.
Yeah, I was thinking about using this. Maybe students can research what kind of 19th century Chinese children would play the kind of game, and then and why it was. And also, I was thinking of like so many of the teachers in high school and the and also a college teaching Emily Dickinson. I was just wonder, and maybe the museum can crowdsource some of the students' work, and using the resources you provided for this one. I was thinking maybe somebody can do this. Who made it, when it started to get popular, when did it get full of out of fashion, and then explore and why is that. And for me as a teacher of Chinese, I'm always, I think I know my students all read Emily Dickinson before they came to me, and through their high school or first year English courses at my college, and thinking the what is the Chinese connection or the Orient connection, and then the material culture that you have in the collection. I don't know whether it be categorized for international society. I mean, I think in international society we have members from all over the world, right? Yeah, I'm thinking if the like Dickinson and the Orient, that kind of a digital collection that will spark a lot of interest and discussion. So that's definitely I'm interested myself. I think I might have written to you, your colleague, and then they were very nice to respond to me, and I really appreciate the museum support. Thank you.
I love that idea of that type of gallery, and I also realize, if you do search for, there are a lot of souvenirs that we have. We have things from Russia, for instance, that came from Martha Dickinson's husband, Alexander Bianchi, We have things from Spain. We have imports that may or may not be from China. If you search for China, and I could definitely see people from other countries being able to provide really useful context to us about these objects in ways that would also be really fun and interesting. And so that could certainly be a thought. I'm going to wrap up soon because I want to make sure we have time for a general conversation. This is just a quick slide about things that the museum is thinking about offering or will be offering in the future for different educating or different groups. So for K through 12, we are working on a menu of programs that can be booked. So these include virtual, in-person, hybrid programs and lesson plans associated with them. We now have a program called Power of Poetry, which is designed for middle and high school students. That involves hands-on learning in the museum with objects, and it involves looking at facsimile Dickinson manuscripts and a creative writing piece. It honestly, I think, would be pretty fun for college students or adults as well. And we want to make a program for 3rd to 5th grade students and downloadable kits of manuscripts that have been curated for classroom use. And we want to have more creative writing opportunities for students and workshops for students to take during Tell It Slant. For college, we have our current regular wonderful guided tours available, but we want to create more hands-on tours for college students and more opportunities in the future for college students to get to access our collections. We don't currently have a study room, but that's something we dream of. Applied Humanities Workshops is thinking about ways that we might be able to make sort of professional development opportunities available to students, especially local students who might be interested in working in museums. So we can only serve 1 or 2 students through an internship, but maybe all of them could take a volunteer workshop on creating, alt text or something and spend an afternoon generating for us and that for us, and it would be also skill building for them. And then for educators, we're thinking about resources that we might want to make. And this is where we also do want to really hear from you. Images that could be used, on-demand videos that might show a short, useful clip of something, sample lessons, professional development opportunities. And we also want to provide opportunities for educators to develop curriculum or to support them in that and get to publish it or share it. So these are all areas that we're excited about and we're thinking about, and we want to hear your ideas about as well. So thank you very much. I don't want to take away conversations that could happen on the Discord and the pedagogy community, but if you have a particular question about getting involved with your students in your classroom with the museum, feel free to write me here. And this is my work email. And I also in that handout gave the email for the collections if you wanted to write about getting more collection, more metadata and information about a particular collections object. I'd also really want myself to know that, because if there's evidence of educational use of the collection, that can help support an argument for, developing more things. And so that would be great for me to know as well. So thank you so much. I look forward to talking more about this with all of you.
Thank you so much. This has been really helpful. I don't know if anyone had any questions or wanted to get us started. I certainly can. I don't know if I missed this, but I think I might be the only one currently teaching at the high school level in English. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Is there anyone else out there? My question and my interest was in curriculum development. Have you had any other interest from high school teachers on in programs to develop curriculum? Because I'm hitting a kind of block in how I might use this in a high school classroom. And I noticed that you have or are going to be implementing programs 3 to 5. And then it kind of jumps to college just in what you've shown us. And I know that EDM has many more resources. But I'm still kind of parsing out how I want to work with that. So I guess my question is, what stage are you at with that? Have you had any other interest in that? What can we do to support you? And I also have a second question, and then I promise I'll be done. But I'll let you answer that one first.
Oh yeah. So for curriculum development, are you asking about whether the museum itself is looking to develop lesson plans or whether the museum is looking to support?
Looking to kind of maybe, is there any plan in the work when you say curriculum development? Is there any plan for programs bringing high school teachers together to work on designing curriculum themselves that can incorporate Emily Dickinson within, we'll say, state standards and the various changes that have gone into place?
We are really interested in that. I think I didn't mention it specifically because I think we're figuring out the pathway for that. So we in the past, we have a major way that we've done that is to apply for the NEH Summer Scholars Workshop, which we did just apply to again, but we also know that in the United States, whether or not the NEH will have funding is in question. So this is a week-long wonderful seminar program that is residential where a teacher would get housing and funding to come together and work on exactly that, curriculum or lesson plans. And we put together a list of faculty and programs. And then in the past, we have used those lesson plans when finished and shared them and made them available on our website. I think that we are looking for other opportunities like that, either that we find a way to fund ourselves. Maybe we'll get the NEH, crossing fingers, because that would be very exciting. But we are thinking about ways that we could also support teachers in fellowships or groups to sort of create curriculum units of their own and then share and make those available. So it is very important to us, and we would like it to be something that is, driven by active K-12 teachers. But it's something that we're looking for the right pathway right now. So I hope that answers your question.
It does. It does. Is there anyone else who has a question? I don't want to dominate. I have one more question though, very quick. Have there been any new lessons or activities, et cetera, that focus on the letters themselves?
So that is from the museum or from
yes.
So it's funny, I'll tell you that the main activity that I've ever done focused with letters. I think we're wanting to develop that, and if we did have a letter, specific, we were inviting Kristen Miller to our NEH program with the hopes that the new letters would be a big focus. So we wanted to give every teacher in attendance a copy of the letters. And that is something that we're really keen to develop. And I think that we will be keen to be in those conversations. I have done letters focused programs. And this is very different than anything we've talked about with Girl Scouts. They have a scribe badge when they're in junior Girl Scouts. And a lot of that is about writing. And we have read Emily Dickinson's letters with Scout troops, especially the ones she wrote to Abaya when she's young, and had done letter writing activities along with them and talked about like the literary life of letters. And we've spent time in one of her letters, she presses a geranium leaf to a baya root and sends it. So we do that together. We write letters in the homestead, the library, and we reflect on letters, in culture today. So the answer is yes, we have done that in this very particular program. And
But I feel like that could be adapted. That's, I think something along those lines could be adapted to my high school classroom.
yes,
So that would be good.
we have a creative writing exercise that we actually do with the poem for high school students, with the poem "How I Read a Letter Is This," which is a Dickinson poem about how she sort of reads a letter, and they relate to that. They enjoy that poem a lot. We can talk about the experience of maybe getting a text or a letter or a note, how a letter might be different, how you might want to read that, in a private space. And we use it to actually do a sort of write an instructional poem with a focus on something that they do in a particular way in their own lives, even if it's not writing a letter. And that's been something that we've been offering to high school students visiting the museum. And it's been a lot of fun. And we do talk about Dickinson's letters with them, with that poem as context. So
Just
those are
a
some
side
very
note.
highly specific examples. Yeah.
Just a side note, I really want a scribe badge, but I don't want to be a Girl Scout. But
Do others have questions for Elias about the programming and resources at the museum connected to teaching or connected to other things that are percolating? Elias, your presentation was so wonderful. I have so many things kind of percolating right now, and I can't believe I haven't been just looking more directly at the collection. I already found a few things that will be really useful in classroom and in scholarship. So thank you for being so generative. Questions that others have or anything you want to share? Dolly?
I was thinking, thank you. I was thinking about for a modern language association have been like for the past few years have been like a digital humanities, and I'm thinking maybe and I think it's funded by Mellon Foundation. Hopefully that's not affected by the higher up in Washington D.C. Yeah. And also I'm thinking about um, the recent report from several states about a decline in literacy. And I think Wendy, I got me the inspiration about using reading Emily Dickinson as a uh, doing more literacy work. And I'm thinking maybe 3 to 5, and then that can be that kind of approach, like reading Emily Dickinson, who enhance everybody's literacy, even even in elementary school, and things like, and certainly with toys, right? The material object in the museums that we can and definitely take advantage of what the museum has to offer. I think maybe the Emily Dickinson International Society as a society, maybe everybody members looking for funding opportunities that can partner with the museum. I know sometimes they say, oh, it has to be a school or something. But I was thinking, and that is a win-win situation, and then we serve the literacy needs of the larger community. And then Dickinson will be a wonderful example, even for younger age learners as well. And thank you so much. This is so helpful. And I'm going to dive into the Chinese collection. Thank you, Wendy.
There's a wonderful group in Amherst area called the Literacy Project, and they focus on adults who are learning to read English and or improve their reading comprehension skills. And they have often had poetry writing as part of that and reading Dickinson as part of their curriculum and come to the museum. So they're a great group to look into, at least locally, but they probably, if that is of interest to anybody and you are doing some of that work with adults, they would be people I would want to connect to.
Other questions or is everyone on Discord? Does everyone know what Discord is? We can talk
I
about that.
signed up, but I struggled. I thought, I'm sorry, I was late. I thought I joined from the discourse.
Yeah, we
The
changed
meeting,
it so
and
we
then from
could.
the Discord, I found out there's a Zoom. Yeah, but
Yeah.
I'm glad. I'm sorry, I'm late. I was hoping to go to I saw the meeting is hosted as a discourse.
Yeah, we wanted to do Zoom because we can record it, and it's hard to do with Discord, but also we will, maybe Elias is, if they're okay with it, the PowerPoint, we can include the Word document that Elias shared. We can include some links to the collection, and we can, start archiving some of these ideas. Maybe if Elizabeth's colleague is willing to share the story of an object assignment, or if others here have different kinds of assignments. It doesn't have to be specific to Dickinson per se, right? But if it's helping someone engage with material culture, with poetry, kind of reading strategy that engages students, or, all of that we can start collecting so that it's a space for EDIS members to go and both share what they're doing and also, draw from what others are doing as well. And so I didn't want to, sorry for taking us to Discord and for interrupting the questions, but since we're almost at 11:30, I wanted to just raise that because we're trying to get more people to use Discord and use it as a real tool and conversation space. Elizabeth.
Yeah, thank you so much. This was extremely helpful. I just love the idea of going into the collection in the ways that Elias is showing us. And I had only been thinking, frankly, about the Harvard collection because I knew that they had coral there, like a coral ring, which I thought was fascinating. But now I see that there's so much more. And to the point about the assignments, it would be wonderful if we could start to share because as I'm doing this course, I'm thinking about ways to tap into these resources. And I have to say, the material, I did assign the material on the website, like particularly the biographical sections, the sections on reading. I think it's really, really handy for students who may not be able to dive immediately into a biography to have those readily available. And so as we're developing assignments, like I really have an interest in developing an assignment around the Webster's 1844 dictionary. And in fact, gave my students something like that to do, which is, pull a word that you want to know more about and really investigate the etymology of the word, the examples in Webster's text, and how she uses this word, right, within the context of a poem. So I'm waiting to see what they do with it. My question is just, can we start to build a set of assignments in some way that would be helpful? And then really in a practical way, Wendy, I would love it if you or Juan Carlos or Cheryl could just demonstrate to us how to get on Discord because my bad, I haven't been on it yet.
Yes, that's a good idea.
Okay, and I just need to know how to get on it.
Juan
I think
Carlos?
we have like a video or like a PDF that can help you with that already put together.
It'd be great too. Yeah.
Would it be useful right now for us to sort of look at Discord and make sure everyone knows how to get there in our final moments, or maybe if you want to hang back after
I can hang
11:30.
on if that's something other people don't want to do. Happy to do that.
Juan Carlos or Cheryl, would you be willing to show us how to get on, or Kimberly, how to get onto Discord right now?
Yeah, are we starting completely from scratch?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Would that be useful for everyone?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I struggled with it,
Okay.
but
Sounds like
finally,
that
but
would be
it's good
useful.
review for me too. Yeah, I finally got in. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
not easy. Yeah.
let's do that so that then we can start sharing and building our pedagogical tools and assignments. Thanks,
Sure.
Kimberly.
Thank you.
Okay. So first, go to your search engine of choice and type Discord. I'm gonna have to log out of mine, so hold on a second. I'm gonna do that. Oh, I'm already logged out. Great, perfect. When you click on it, this should say login right here, or create a open whatever it says there. This seems to be. Is everyone seeing this button that needs to do this?
Yeah.
It's gonna open mine, so hold on. I'm gonna have to log out. Also, I apologize for the children's television programming you can probably hear in my background.
It's all right.
How do I log out? Let's see.
How am I still online? I didn't think it was.
Sorry, if I didn't have 12 billion tabs open, my computer may be a little faster, but such is my
You're
life.
fine.
Wait, better idea. All right. No.
This is where all the conveniences of all the things that they save aren't always helpful, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, once you're in, you're in. It was harder for me to log out than anything else. All right, so if you've clicked this button, you perhaps have already been working on what the next step is, which is creating an account if you didn't already have one. Question mark? That was a real question.
I think I stayed in too because I was following directions and then finally create an account. And then I didn't have to when I do Discord as I already in. And then I click on the Emily Dickinson group and then I find out the Zoom meeting link. That's
Yeah,
why
perfect. You're already
I
there.
joined.
All
Yeah,
right.
but how did you get out? I sort of stayed in all this time after I signed in. That was a
Yeah, no,
few.
I only logged out to show other people how to
Oh, okay.
log in. Don't
Yeah.
actually log out. I just did that to show you. All right, yeah. So if you already have an account, you can log in here. Otherwise, you can register. It's just like registering for anything else. You're gonna
Yeah.
do that. Okay.
Yeah.
And then once you have your account, you will log in. All right, and here's your crash course on Discord. Over here on this left-hand column, once you're logged in, your EDIS thing will appear once you are active as an EDIS member. If you're not, I will send you a link right now that will get you on there. Let's see. All right, I'm going to drop this in the chat. All right, so once you've made your account, if you go to this link right here that I just put in the chat, it will invite you to be a member of our EDIS community. Am I going too fast? Am I going too slow?
You're good. Thank you.
Okay. All right, and once you've joined our community, you'll have this at the top here for your direct messages. This little icon will appear. This will be your EDIS community that I'm already clicked on. And then you should have some other icons down here. Hi, baby. Yeah, so once you're in Discord, each of these things with a hashtag next to it is a channel. So we have welcome enrolls. It'll tell us when people join in the general channel, I believe. Yeah, so it'll say when people join. We have an off-topic channel. We don't use it because we don't use Discord enough to care about things that are not Emily Dickinson related. We have an announcements channel. If you have an Emily Dickinson EDIS related announcement, we're going to have a book club eventually, but we don't right now. All right. Most importantly, our pedagogy channel is right here. And so I believe this is where we were talking about sharing, like building up that database of docs. So you can kind of scroll in and see things. I think some people have.
There is already the pedagogy files at the very top, if you can scroll back up to that.
Yeah, there we go. There's a sub channel where we have files and people can share files specifically here.
This is where folks can start to share lessons, units, syllabi, etc. in here, so we can start having a kind of a bank of all these tools.
Yes. That's it, unless anyone has any questions.
Thanks, Kimberly.
And I think we're also planning on starting a conversation here. I know it takes me a little while. I'm a little bit slower to process things. So I'm sure in the next day or two, I'll have additional questions or ideas or something like that. And we're going to be able to continue this conversation after our event ends.
Yeah, and then hopefully we can, I mean, if you have additional questions for Elias, we have their email. I can put my email also in the chat. But, kind of open and informal. We would really like to hear from you. We would like to hear what your questions are. We would like to hear both what you would like to share with others, but also your particular needs, so we can start to, student-centered learning, right? Community-centered learning. We want this to be not kind of directive or top-down, but really kind of coming from your expertise and questions. So please join Discord so we can, have that space to ask questions more informally and to share our ideas and questions. And Elias, this was so instructive and useful. I feel like we'll have to do this. We'll have to bring you back at least once a kind of semester, because it feels like there's so much more to think about, especially connected to the museum and all that you're doing. So this gave us a good overview, but I feel like there's so much more, I think, potential for both of our kind of communities to come together. So really just want to thank you so much for your time, Elias, and thank everyone else for joining us on a Saturday. This was really lovely. And I hope to see you all in the Discord chat and again at one of our events.
Thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun and also a perfect way to, honestly have a cheerful Saturday, get to see a lot of people who care about Dickinson is really the best thing. And I will make these slides available to Wendy and Cheryl tomorrow, and we can put them in the Discord, or I can
That
practice
would be
in
so
the
great.
Discord for you.
Yeah.
When I'm back in the
That would be
office.
wonderful.
Mhm.
Thank you so
If
much.
anybody doesn't, I don't know if I should share them with you in case anybody doesn't have access to the Discord but would like to see them. So I'm not sure how to.
Maybe you could do both, share them with us, and if you can add it to Discord, great. Otherwise, we can add it.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like I could add it. Should I put them in the chat for the main channel, or should I put them? That probably makes the most sense. Not the main channel, but the main pedagogy.
In the pedagogy files section.
Files? Okay.
Yeah.
In the files section.
Yeah, and then also, is it okay if we post the handout that you with the questions? The 20 questions would be great as well. And then I'll also add some resources too, and everyone else. I hope to see your syllabi and assignments proliferate in that thread. Thank you so much, and
thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. It was wonderful. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone, for
Bye-bye.
being here.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Great to meet
Nice
everyone.
to meet you.
Goodbye.
Lovely to see you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Goodbye. Thanks for being here.
Bye. Hi. I wanted Elias to stay. I wanted to.
I know. I was hoping we could
debrief a little bit. Should I see if I can email them? Let's see.
Yeah, see if you can snag them.
Okay. Okay. I thought that was really awesome. What do you think?
I think it went really well. I thought it was really good. At first, I'm always a little bit nervous because it's like the first event.